Have no fear. While millions of Americans are struggling to survive day to day and the economy is in the tank, the millionaire banksters on Wall Street are doing just fine. Welcome back, by the way. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just ask Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. At J.P. Morgan's investor conference yesterday, Jamie Dimon bragged to a group of uber-wealthy investors, quote, "We actually benefit from downturns." In other words, they've so rigged the system that when millions of Americans are out of jobs, when people are struggling to put food on the table, can't provide for their families, Jamie Dimon and his Wall Street fat cat buddies are doing better than ever before, making a profit off our misery. But, should we be surprised? I mean, frankly, I don't think such an appalling statement should come as a shock. After all, numerous reports have suggested that J.P. Morgan Chase and other big banks engaged in criminal and or unethical activity, and it's possible that Jamie Dimon did too. It's inexcusable that these banks and their banksters continue to rake in millions after destroying our economy and devastating our middle class. One way or another, this rampant corruption on Wall Street needs to stop, and that's where Senator Elizabeth Warren comes in. Since Elizabeth Warren was sworn into the Senate fewer than 2 months ago, she's been kicking butt and taking names. Using her influential seat on the Senate Banking Committee, she has already called out the nation's top financial regulators. Remember that? We played the clip right here on the program. Why haven't you taken these people to trial? How many people have you taken to trial? None. We've always been able to settle. Oh, you've actually not really prosecuted anybody. No, we never took anybody to trial. At a February 14th hearing, Elizabeth Warren told regulators, quote, "We face some very special issues with big financial institutions. If they can break the law and drag in billions and billions in profits and then turn around and settle paying out of those profits, they don't have much incentive to follow the law," end of quote. It's sort of like, let me give you an analogy. I was talking about shoplifting earlier in the program. It's sort of like, you walk into Macy's and you shoplift a $1,000 mink stole or something, something really expensive that's actually on the rack, and you could walk out with it, and you get arrested. And you get to keep the mink, and you have to pay a $500 fine. That's how it's working for the banks. They keep the money, they keep the profit, because say you take the mink and you sell it, and then you turn that into pay for yourself. I mean, these banksters, they pay themselves these giant bonuses, and they say, hey, the bank doesn't have the money anymore. And by the way, many of the payments that these guys make, they're tax deductible. It's considered an ordinary cost of business, paying fines for criminal activity, or at least illegal activity. Elizabeth Warren continued taking on our nation's corrupt financial industry yesterday, pressing Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke about the risks and fairnesses of having banks that are too big to fail. She asked him, this is, again, she's talking to Bernanke. She says, "We've now understood this problem for nearly 5 years, so when are we going to get rid of too big to fail?" Bernanke's answer? Well, it was rather long and lengthy, and I, rather read you all the words in it. Basically, here's his answer. Duh. Warren also asked whether the big banks should have to repay the taxpayers, you and me, the whopping $83 billion a year that we give to the banksters every year as a government subsidy and basically a form of banking insurance, because we're backstopping them. $83 billion a year. You and I are giving the banks. By the way, and here's where it gets really bizarre, that $83 billion a year that you and I are giving the banks, that's how much their profits were last year. At least the big banks. You aggregate them, it's $83 billion. And so if we weren't subsidizing the banksters, CEOs like Jamie Dimon wouldn't be able to walk home with multi-million-dollar bonuses and windfall payouts. And we're supposed to think these guys are the noble titans of industry and Wall Street, and no, God bless them, they're keeping America safe. And come on. Elizabeth Warren is pointing out corruption and greed on Wall Street, but she's one woman. I mean, thank God she's there in the Senate. Bernie Sanders, up to this point, had been the only guy who had been doing this. But she can't take down the big banks, and she can't force the regulators to regulate them all by herself. The whole system needs to be changed. For a long time now, basically, we've been using the Bush administration approach to dealing with the big banks. When the banks began to freeze up and the economy started to crash in 2006, 2007, and then ultimately got really bad in 2008, the Bush administration had arguably three choices. One is they could do what Herbert Hoover did, which is nothing. Two, they could do what FDR did. He put the safety and well-being of the American people and homeowners first. In other words, he bailed out the people on the bottom when the economy began to improve. The banks bounced back with regulations. Or three, he could do what the Bush administration did, which is what he did, of course, which is why it's option three. It's the Bush administration. Bail out the banks with $700 billion in taxpayer money, have the Fed give them trillions in free lines of credit, let them get back on their feet, and hope for the best. That worked out really good, didn't it? Time to stop propping up our banks. It's time to end this whole thing too big to fail. How do we do that? We bring back the Glass-Steagall Act. Under Glass-Steagall, and Glass-Steagall's still on the books, it's just been neutered by this legislation that was put forward by Phil Gramm and his buddies back in 1999, I think it was. Maybe it was 2000. What was it called? Graham Leach Bliley was the law, as I recall. Now, under Glass-Steagall, we had two kinds of bank. One, like your neighborhood bank, did checkbooks, home loans, and savings accounts. The technical name for them was commercial banks. Second kind of bank was what were called investment banks, places like Merrill Lynch used to be, where you bought and sold stocks, bonds, and commodities, betting banks. Glass-Steagall said that these two kinds of banks had to be different. They had to be separate. They couldn't even be owned by the same people, and they couldn't get into each other's business. So you always knew that your bank was not gambling in the back room with the money in your checking or savings account and wasn't out hustling your mortgage to some foreign investment fund. But Republican Senator Phil Gramm and his bankster buddies didn't like all that. So in the final years of the Clinton administration, they put an end to the Glass-Steagall Act that had been protecting us ever since the Great Depression. And the result, just like in 1929, was predictable. The banks gambled, they lost, and they crashed. And they took us all down with them. And then Bush bailed them out. Twice.